The supply chain is certainly causing everyone to find ways to do work differently. In simple ways, it might mean that that new machine you ordered that you were expecting is now 10 months away. Maybe you've got to consider a rental option where you're going to use machines that aren't even in your fleet. That doesn't mean you can't outfit them with them technology and still benefit from them, but you might be owning or operating them in a different way. I also think that the supply chain, if I think about it on a construction site in terms of materials, there are a number of tools now where you can actually get the concept of just-in-time deliveries applied to a construction site. So I can know where is that load of dirt or that load of asphalt, how soon is it going to be here. Slowing down is better than stopping, but you'll also have line of sight to should we add an additional truck to the cycle so that we can get back to our intended paving rates.
I think 2 years ago you assumed that that electrical box was at Home Depot. It's not. There's nothing on the shelf anymore. And so to make sure that they're not planning just in time, they're planning lead time into their processes. Plan, plan, plan. And the only way you can do that is to have that digital map out to plan, to be able to know your job site, to know what the project is, to be able to know how many sockets, how many this, how many that you need to plan for to execute on that project.
Another example of taking the supply chain into construction is considering the sustainability impact of that. So if you're having to ship material from thousands of miles away versus working with a local supplier, it's going to have a much bigger environmental impact. So I think by digitizing that, by understanding what's available to you in your local economy, it's benefiting your economy, but it's also reducing your carbon emissions by having to ship things across the country.
Balancing. When we talk about balancing a site, it's a really real-world example that we see is making sure that you don't have to move material on or off the site. So in a scenario where you might have to perform a cut operation, you want to reuse that somewhere else on the job site because right now it's truck drivers. Finding truck drivers is next to impossible. When we talk about fuel, fuel in the supply chain is difficult. That's more of the inflation impacts that we're seeing. And when we talk about idling or rework, fuel consumption has become a huge issue for our contractors that are trying to complete a job on budget. So making sure that you're doing everything the most efficient way, you're maximizing every movement with those machines during the earth moving phase is critical.
Are you looking out 5 years, even 7 years? What are those projects? What are those goals that you have for your business? And what hardware and software are required to meet those goals? And start backing yourself up to where you're planning that fifth and farther out. So what hardware do you need? Do you have it on order? Can you get your funding for that if it's government? Can you get do you have that contract that far out? Can you start to get funding from your customers?